The invitation arrived wrapped in cream-colored paper, embossed with gold lettering so heavy it almost seemed to press judgment into the hands of whoever held it. Mr. Adrian Vale cordially invites you to an evening celebration at the Vale estate. No occasion was listed, no reason given, just a date, a time, and an address that belonged to one of the most talked about millionaires in the city. By the next morning, the invitation had already raised eyebrows. By noon, it had raised questions. And by nightfall, it had raised suspicions, because one name was conspicuously missing from the guest list: his accountant. Adrian Vale was a man people loved to watch from a distance. He had built his fortune young, fast, and publicly, the kind of success story that inspired admiration and resentment in equal measure. He owned glass towers downtown, funded scholarships, and threw charity galas that filled newspapers with smiling photos and sparkling headlines. But behind the headlines, whispers followed him like shadows. Too rich, too fast. No one knows how he really did it, if his accountant ever talked. So when Adrian announced a lavish party at his private estate, complete with celebrities, politicians, and business rivals, the city buzzed. Yet among all the glittering names, one absent stood out sharply. Clara Bennett, his accountant of 10 years, had not received an invitation. And people noticed. Clara noticed too. She sat alone in her modest apartment that evening, the city lights blinking through her window like distant stars, her phone glowing with messages she hadn't opened. Friends, former colleagues, even distant relatives were suddenly curious. Did you see the guest list? Why aren't you going? Are you okay? Clara set the phone face down and closed her eyes. She had known this day would come. She just hadn't expected it to come dressed as a party. Clara had never cared for attention. She preferred numbers, quiet, honest things that balanced when treated right. She had met Adrian a decade earlier, back when his office was smaller than most conference rooms and his ambition barely fit inside it. She had believed in his vision when few others did. She had stayed late, double-checked ledgers, and caught mistakes that could have ruined him before his name ever reached the headlines. And she had kept secrets. Not criminal ones, not the kind people whispered about, but human ones: debts, failures, moments when Adrian had nearly lost everything. She had seen him break down at revealed losses, slam his fist against his desk in frustration, and stare blankly at spreadsheets as if they were mirrors reflecting his worst fears. Clara had never spoken of those moments. She believed loyalty mattered more than recognition. As the night of the party approached, the gossip grew louder. Some claimed Clara had been fired quietly. Others suggested she had refused to attend, afraid of scrutiny. A few cruel voices even hinted she was being kept away so she wouldn't expose something scandalous. Clara listened to none of it. She ironed her plain navy dress, poured herself a cup of tea, and prepared for an ordinary evening. That was her plan. Across town, the Vale estate glowed like a palace. Cars lined the long driveway, headlights sweeping over manicured lawns. Laughter floated through the open doors as guests arrived in designer suits and shimmering gowns. Adrian stood at the entrance, greeting each one with practiced ease, his smile polished and confident. Yet every few minutes, his eyes drifted toward the long drive, as if waiting for something, or someone. Inside, the party unfolded in full splendor. Music hummed softly beneath conversations about markets, investments, and power. Champagne flowed, cameras flashed. At one point, a well-known journalist leaned toward Adrian and asked with a teasing smile, "So, Adrian, rumor has it the most important person in your empire isn't here tonight. Care to explain?" Adrian's smile didn't falter, but something behind his eyes shifted. "Some people," he replied calmly, "don't arrive on invitations. They arrive when the moment is right." The journalist laughed, assuming it was a deflection. But Adrian checked his watch. Back in her apartment, Clara was washing her cup when her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated before answering. "Clara," came Adrian's voice, softer than she remembered. "I know this is unexpected. I need you to come to the estate. Tonight." Her first instinct was to refuse. Pride rose in her chest, sharp and protective. "You didn't invite me," she said simply. "I know," Adrian replied. "And that was intentional. Please, trust me. I'll send a car." There was a pause, a long one. Clara looked at her reflection in the dark window, saw the years of quiet work written in the lines of her face. Finally, she exhaled. "All right," she said. 1 hour. When the car pulled into the estate, the party was at its peak. Guests turned as Clara stepped inside, murmurs rippling through the room. She felt exposed in her simple dress among the glitter, but she lifted her chin and walked forward. Adrian met her halfway, his confident mask gone. For the first time in years, he looked nervous. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. Before she could respond, Adrian turned to the crowd and tapped a glass. The music faded, conversations stilled, hundreds of eyes fixed on him, and then on Clara. "For years," Adrian began, "people have speculated about my success. They've praised me, doubted me, and accused me. Tonight, I invited you all here not to celebrate my wealth, but to acknowledge the truth behind it." He gestured toward Clara. "This is Clara Bennett, my accountant, my anchor, the person who kept this company honest when shortcuts were tempting and the pressure to impress was overwhelming. Every clean audit, every ethical decision, every survival through near collapse, she made that possible." The room was silent. "I didn't invite her earlier because I didn't want her to walk in as a guest," Adrian continued. "I wanted her to arrive as what she truly is, the reason I'm standing here." Adrian turned to Clara, his voice trembling now. "You were invisible because you chose integrity over applause. Tonight, that changes." Applause erupted, slow at first, then thunderous. Clara stood frozen, emotion crashing over her in waves. For years, she had accepted being unseen. Now, under the chandeliers, she felt something unfamiliar and overwhelming: recognition. Later that night, as the crowd thinned and the estate grew quiet, Clara and Adrian stood on the terrace overlooking the city. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. "Yes," Adrian replied, "I did. Success that forgets who carried it isn't success. It's theft." Clara smiled, a small, real smile. For the first time, she felt lighter, not because the world finally saw her, but because she realized something deeper. Being unseen had never diminished her worth. It had revealed it, and as the city lights shimmered below, the message lingered, quiet but powerful. True value isn't proven by applause or wealth, but by integrity, loyalty, and the courage to honor those who stand behind the scenes, holding everything together.